Hello everyone, and welcome to the week 9 demo. In this demo, I will try to do the videos in different parts since we need to do all of these steps from 1 up until number 14. I will see how I'm going to divide it. But right now, let's do the configuration. First of all, what we are going to do in this demo, we are going to clone the week 7 demo that we have done, the GDBC one, and then we will convert the GDBC into a GBA project. Therefore, first, I'm going to add the link to clone this. This is the link here. You just need to get this. And it means and here, just pass the password. Okay. Now, first of all, we need to clone the project. Next, and make sure that you change the name from week 7 to week 9. And say open the project. And the project will comes with the name called GDBC demo. Just right click and say rename. And then name it as week 9 demo. And rename it. Okay, here we go. Now we have it here as a week 9 demo. And this is the first step, is to clone and rename. These are the first two steps. Now the third step is to add an Eclipse link library, because if you want to work with GBA, you need an Eclipse link. Then just go here and say, go to library, right click and say add library and choose the Eclipse link option here, this one, and add this library. And if you expand this, you will see that, okay, we have Eclipse link over there. Okay. Now, these are number 4 right now. They are asking me to add persistence.xml. Now, to add the persistence.xml, we can ask NetBeans to do that for me. I just say right click, go new, and here in the filter say persistence. And this is the persistence unit that I want to add. Now, here you would name it as notes BU, which is notes persistence unit. Okay. And here we will make sure that you choose the correct database and make sure that you configure that from the service and make it run. I'm going to go with the notes DB. Okay, and here we have table generation strategy. Are we going to create that from our code? Remember that we say we have a code, like a code first approach or a database first approach. The code first approach is when I do the code and this code being translated into MySQL tables. But here we are going to say none because we already have the database with us. We don't need to create these tables. We will create the tables using SQL scripts. Okay, and just say finish. And here we go. Now, if we go to the source, please remove these properties because these properties are suitable for a single connection. But remember that in this course, we are using connection bool, and therefore I don't need these properties. Okay, just save it. And let's see what do we have here in the demo. Okay, what do we have? Okay, now, as I said, we just need to add this as a data source. And to add this as a data source, you just need to go to design, then general, and here we go. Now add this, but just remove the column and just say save. And this is the data source that I'm adding for the persist class here, .xml. If I go to the source, you will find it here. And by the way, this means that we are making a connection between the context.xml, the connection bool, this one, and the persistence.xml file. Okay, and by using the name of this, which is here GDBC notes DB, and here we have it as well as GDBC notes DB. Okay. And until now, they are saying uncheck something called Java Transaction API. If we go here to the design, and it's already unchecked, like you don't need to do it. But if it was checked, just uncheck that. Okay. And just save it and go back to the source. And these are the 5 steps. Now they are saying delete all existing domain classes. Okay, and create entity classes from the database. These are number 6 and 7. Let me see number 8 and 9, where we need to do, okay. I will make that as a part 2 video. Let's say this is the part 1 for configuration. Now part 2, when I'm gonna start creating entity classes. Okay, now in part 2, we will need to create, first of all, create all domain classes. We mean that here, the model classes, just go to the source packages, and here, delete this. And here you can safely delete and refactor, and here we go. Now we delete the models. Now the second step is to create these entity classes. Now I'm not gonna create that. I'm gonna just ask NetBeans to create that for me. And I just click, say new, and here say entity. Okay. Now expand this, go to the persistent, and say that I want to choose entity class from database, and they will create like the Java, the GBA, they will create entity classes based on existent relational database. They would go to the database and they will create Java classes to me as an auto-generated. I don't need to do anything like that. Just say next. And here I should specify the database. Remember that we are working with notes DB, and I need to pass the password. Okay, now what I should do, I need to add all of them. After that, I say next. And here I have notes. I can change the class name. For example, if I want to say this is notes or change it completely, you can do that. There's no problem, but I'm gonna just leave it as it is right now. And here you will have the existence, like I'm gonna add them. I'm gonna add them to the package called model, and then say next. Okay, I need to charge it, no problem. And here, I would add this as a list. The collection type, I have set collection or list. I'm gonna go with list. And association fetch, remember that we have two different types, lazy and eager. In this course, we are just working with eager. Okay, and just say finish. Okay, now if you look at this .xml file here, you will find that I have the user and note have been added here. And if I expand the model, you will see that now I have a note class, which is an auto-generated class for me based on the database that I have. And here I have a user, which is also auto-generated for me without writing any code for that. Okay, and this is what we mean by entity classes here. Now, I just want to talk about this very quickly. Remember that we went over this in details in the lecture, but I just want to if I see something interesting to talk about. First of all, remember here we are creating this as an entity, and we are linking this with a table in the database called user. Now, if I go to the database here, I have this table called user, and here I have the class that I am making a connection between the user and user here. Okay, and here we start defining our columns. For example, the first column is the ID. When we say ID, we mean this is the primary key. Okay, and this is the meaning of this annotation. And here we have a next one called column. The name of it is an active. The third column is first name. As you can see, for example, here we are using underscore, but in Java here we are using a different naming convention. Okay, like here we are saying name, but at the end of the day, because I have this at column and I'm saying, okay, this first underscore name, This is first name as a camel casing. Both they are like the same variable at the end of the day. One for the database. If you go to the database, you will find this here. But in Java, I'm going to deal with it as this, not with underscore. And the same for the last name. And here as well, I have the password. And by the way, when we say optional, we say optional means it's not null. Okay. And here we have a relationship. We are saying that one user contains one-to-many relationship with the note class. Now, if I go to the note class here, you will see that if you scroll down there, you will find, first of all, you will have these things here as similar to what we have discussed in the user class, where it has an ID as a primary key, and it has the different columns here. But the most important one for me right now is this relationship. We are saying we have a relationship as many to one, and here we have a user. And if you compare this right now, here we are saying the user contains a list of nodes, and here we are saying the node contains only one user. Okay, it's only one user. Like if I bring a node from the database, let's say node ABC, node ABC 123, any node, it would have an object called user. However, if I bring a user from the database, this user that I brought from the database will contain a list of nodes. Okay, again, if you want to understand that, let's use PowerPoint. And let's see it here. First of all, this is the database that I have. I have a user and node, and we have a relationship as one-to-many relationship. Now, if you want to read that from, you can read that from different perspective. The first one is from the perspective of the user. We can say that one-to-many relation, and in this case, we would say that the user or one user will have many nodes. Okay. Example, just imagine your account, like you are the user, and here you are your photos and videos on the Instagram, for example. One user have many notes, or one user have many posts, or many user have many photos. And now if you want to read that from the other direction, from the many to one direction, we would say that one note will have one user. And therefore here in the classes, the auto-generated classes, this one contains a list of nodes. However, the node, the many to one side, contain just one user. Okay, because we are saying that one node belongs to one user, but one user has more than one node at the same time. Okay, I hope this is clear, because this is what is bidirectionality. And that means if I got a user by like for free, I will have a list of nodes. And that means also if I have a node by free, I will have access to the owner object. Okay, and this is also here, like the user has a list that contains many nodes, and the node has one object of type user. This is, I don't need to do these queries by myself. If I just say to the entity manager, for example, here, if I say to the entity manager, for example, here, and if I ask the entity manager to go and grab a user, okay, if I say, okay, please go to the database and grab user number one, for example. User number one, when they would grab it to me, okay, okay. Now, when I say grab user number one to me, entity manager will take that from the database and give it to me here on the Java side. This is the Java side. This is the database side. Now, because I have the user one inside it, it will contain the list of nodes that this user, that means here we don't need to do that by ourselves, but here we will have a list of nodes. List of nodes. And these list of nodes will be brought together with the user number one. These list of nodes belong to the user number one. And how I can access these list of nodes, remember that if you have the user, you will have this one, which is called note list. But if you want to see note list because it's a private, that means I have a getter and setter for that. If I use scroll down, you will see it here. Yeah, you will see that I can get note list, which means I can return all the note, or I can update this note completely, like add it anew. But we are not going to use set, but we are going to use the get note list. Okay, and for the get note, let's say that I want to get note number one. Okay, just say here I have a user. Let's say that I want to go note number 123. I ask entity manager, please go to the database and give me note 123. They go and bring that to me. But remember, we have a relationship. Each node contains one user. They will search, oh, who is the user? Oh, this user. They will bring that also together with the node 123. Now, if I go to the class node, you will see that, okay, I have the owner. And if you want to see that, how can I get the owner? Here, I just say get owner. I have a method and I say get owner. Okay, this is how it works, the bidirectionality in GBA, and I hope this would make it more easier for you to understand. And we will see that in the example right now. You see, it's very useful, by the way. Now let's see what we need to do. We examine the persistence annotations. Okay, and delete. Okay, I will do that in the part 3 of the demo. See ya. Okay, now here we need to delete some files and edit some files since we are not anymore using GDBC. We need, first of all, to delete the connection pool. And here we have a question like, why do we need to delete this connection pool class? We are going to delete it because remember, we have set a connection between persistent.xml here. Okay, I'm setting a connection between the context. Therefore, there is no need for this class anymore because I'm doing the job. Because if you open this, see, we are using the same database, okay? But this time I'm using this from the XML, not from Java. Therefore, there is no need for the connection pool anymore. Okay, we are still using this, but not from the Java side, from the XML side right now. I just need to remove this, delete it, safely delete, refactor, refactor 2 times, and that's all. Now they are saying edit database util. I just need to copy paste. This is a utility that this utility, remember, it gives me the entity manager factory, because if I want to create an entity manager, and what is an entity manager? Remember, this is the entity manager. If I want to create the entity manager who gets the data from the database to me, who does the magic, remember that entity manager is something difficult that I can not build by myself. I use the entity manager factory, and this is the factory that built the entity manager for me. And I just need to go to the database util here, select everything and remove it, and just say, now here you will have a very weird error. You need to delete this illegal character that you have it here because this is from PowerPoint. Okay. And for this one, just click here and move class to the current. Okay. And oh wait, why did we? Okay. Okay. And just delete this. Okay. And here we go. Now, if I save everything, that now I have the database util. Okay. And what is number 10? Okay, now here we will start doing the code, and I will add that in a different part. And I hope this was clear until now, the 9 steps that we have done. And yeah, I will start doing the coding in next part. Okay, now let's do the coding. I just want to let's close everything right now because now we will start implementing the database instead of using the GDBC. Right now we will do a different way to do that. First of all, just remove everything that you have right now. I am gonna delete everything because I don't need to use it. I just need to keep the try finally thing, and that's all. I'll just do this. Okay. Now let's see how can I do that. First of all, anytime that you want to work with database, remember that I need the entity manager. Okay, now I call this as an EM. Then you can ask the database util to give you the factory. Remember that we need to create an entity manager. We need a factory, and then I say create entity manager. But here we go. Now we got the entity manager, but still I need to import some packages. Uh, Oh, I misspelled that, sorry. Okay, and then just add this folder right now. We have imported that. We have now have the entity manager with us. Now, what I need to do, I need to get a note from the database based on the note ID. Now, how I could do that? It's very simple. I just say em.find, and here I should pass two things. First is the entity class. Like for example, here the entity class that I'm using is note. Okay, node.class. And then I need to pass the ID, the primary key that I want to use, which is not ID here. And then I would say return note. After I get the note from the database, I just return it. And then I close the entity manager to save resources. And that's all. Believe it or not, this is how you can do the get in entity manager. It just comparing it with the GDBC. And right now you see how less code we are doing right now. But there's a very interesting thing that I want to discuss with you right now, which is the question here. Like, for example, how would you get the first name of the owner of a note using SQL? And how would you do the same thing now with GPA? Okay, now let's see what does that mean here. Now, if I get the data from MySQL, what we were doing here, the note class, if I open the note database here, you will see that I have note ID, title, contents, and owner. And the owner is going to return what? Here, the owner is a foreign key. Just see that the owner here is a foreign key. That means if I ask the database to give me, and using SQL, they would just return the email where the email is a foreign key. Okay, just say text. Like they will return, for example, a note ID 1, and then they will return the title, and they will return the content, and then they will return the foreign key. And here the foreign key is going to be an email, for example, Ahmad@SAIT.ca. But right now, I don't need to use the foreign key. I need the all data. For example, I need to know the first name and last name of the user. Is that enough? What you need to do in SQL, you need to create a second query. And the second query, you will say, for example, select star from user where ID is equal. And here you will pass the foreign key that you got. And then after this query, you will have access now, like now you will have access to the first name, okay, first name, uh, last name attributes. As you can see now, I need two steps to do that. First of all, I do the first query. Like here, for example, the first query was here is something like select star from node where node ID is equal to, for example, 1. and they returned that to me. But remember, they just returned a foreign key. They didn't return all data. Remember here, when I say this, if I ask it, okay, just return a note called 1. Okay, let's just say here 1, 2, 3, just to match the example there. Okay. Here in the GBA, I'm going to say, okay, give me the note 1, 2, 3. They're going to say, okay, this note 1, 2, 3. And I'm doing this here, for example, let's say here. I'm asking, for example, give me the note with a note ID, whatever, like just assume that right now, like assume that note ID, note ID right now is equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm just saying, give me the note 1, 2, 3. Now in SQL, they're going to return this to me. They're going to return this as a foreign key. Okay. However, if I need more data regarding this foreign key, I need to do the second query, and then I can have an access to the first name and last name. However, remember here, if I say give me note 1, 2, 3, they will do a second query implicitly and give that to me by 43. No need to do that query. And if you want to see that, for example, I can say right now, let's say I want to store the first name of the user. Okay, just say fn. I could say note, then dot get owner, and then I would say get first name. You see that? It's very easy. Now let's say that for the last name. Okay, now I could say note dot get owner dot get last name, and here we go. Now someone might say, can I get the user, the whole user as an object? Yes, we can, because if we go to the note class here, you will see that we are just having a user, yeah? And we can get that. Okay, I can say here, for example, user, and say you, for example, just, and then say note dot get user, get owner here, yeah. Okay, now because I have this user, okay, I just need to import this. Oh, wait. Why? Oh, what's happening here? I don't have this class. I have it. Oh, it's weird. It's a NetBeans issue. User. Yeah. Okay. Now we get that. We import it. Now, as you can see, now I have the user object. Hey, remember? Now I have this user object with me. And if you remember the example that when I say if I have a user, what I will have for free, I will have all notes for that user. Okay. Like it's just a way that I can move from one side to another side by just having one object. Because right now, if I have a user one here, this is for free, I will have all notes for that user. Like here, I could say, for example, you dot get all get note list. Yeah, this would return all notes for that user. Okay, this return all notes for that user. I hope that you see how much is it interesting to play with it and to go from one direction to another. And yeah, this is very much everything right now for the get. And I will do get all in a separate video. Yeah. Okay. Wait. And let's finish get and get all right now. And I will make another part for the upcoming. Okay, now let's do the get all. First of all, just remove everything as usual. We don't need that. Okay. And let me delete this as well. Okay, let me delete this. Okay. Now, the first thing, I need to create an entity manager to get the data. Okay, I need to do this. And here we have a problem, and I discussed that in the lecture as well. that we don't have something called find all, because I need to find all notes, but I don't have a find all. Here I have find. There is no find all. And then how did they solve that? I say it's very funny their way, because we are using GBA because we don't need to write SQL. They say, okay, we are going to write something called GPQL, which is Java Persistence Query Language. And if we go there to the node.java, you will see that, okay, here we have a queries. And this query, for example, it would allow me to find all. Now, how to use that, by the way, look, you can see all the things that I'm talking about here in the slides, lecture slide. Okay. Again, now how to do that, how to read it, how to use this JPQL inside the NodeDB. First of all, I could do, because I want to create a list of nodes. And here I should say nodes. Okay. And then I would say, give me the entity manager dot create a name query. And here you would specify the name of the JPQL. What's the name of it? It is nodes.findAll. Okay, okay, you need to add this here. And then you need to add node.class. Okay, this is not enough because you need to convert that to a list and just say get result set list. And that's all. By doing this, you are going to get all notes from the database. However, for your lab, by the way, for your lab, this might be enough. This might be enough. However, for demo, no, it's not. Why? Because remember that I don't need to get all notes. I need to get all notes for a particular user. I have a condition here. Now, if you go to the notes here, to the JPQL, actually, I have note by ID. I can like have a note by ID or note by title, note by contents, but I don't have note by owner. And this is the problem right now. I either need to change the construction of this, and to be honest, if we need to do that, it's going to be a pain in the neck for the configuration purpose, by the way. Like I just need to say select n from node where n dot this not going to be content, it's going to be owner. However, I'm not going to do that. Okay, this is going to take a lot of work from us for in terms of configuration. But remember that if we need to get the list of nodes for a particular user, why we don't do this? Why we don't this trick? I can ask about the user, and you're gonna get the user, and for free, you're gonna get the notes for that user. And in this case, I'm gonna return all notes regarding that user. Again, this is a great way to find all data. By the way, if you need to do that, like if you need to stick to this way, you need to create a for loop here. You need to create a loop and say, and then start filter. Like, because you have the note, you can say, okay, if notes.get 0, like the first note is the owner, the same owner that I'm looking for, then add it to the result. Like you can do that, but why do I need to do all of these complicated things? I could ask just for that user because I have his primary key. This is the owner primary key. And I could say, give me the user. Okay, give me the user. And I would say entity manager dot find. And here I would pass the class, which is going to be user.class. And then here I would pass the primary key, which is going to be owner. And that's all. I got the owner. Then for free, I can return user dot. And then I could say get note list. And here we go. Now, and finally, I just need to say em.close. And that's all. And yeah, this is for get and get all. I hope that you find them easy and helpful as well. And I will do separate videos for insert, update, and delete. Yeah, see ya. Okay, now I will do the insert, update, and delete. Let's see how things will go for them. First of all, I just want to remind you about the bidirectionality. Just please remember this, the thing that we discussed in the lecture. Remember that if I have a one-to-many relationship, there is some extra steps that I need to do, which is just to maintain the bidirectionality. And you will see that in the code right now, okay? But just like keep that on your mind, because anytime that you want to insert or if you want to delete, you need to like notify the user that the one side, because you have a one side and many side here, okay? Let's say just have this one. I just need it here, okay? Like, let's say that I'm gonna create here a new node. Okay, let's say that I'm creating a new node. If I'm creating a new node here, this is the many side, because this is the one side, this is the stronger side, and this is the weaker side. If I'm gonna enter anything to the new node, I need to notify the user, and you will see that in the code as I say, but just keep it in your mind. Why I gonna need to notify the user that, oh, I'm adding something to this and I need you to store this on your list, and you will see this right now. Let's go to the insert method. Let's remove everything here. We don't need it. We don't need this as well. Okay. Now, the first thing that we need to do, as always, get the entity manager. Okay. And after we get the entity manager, this time, remember that insert, update, and delete, they do something called entity transaction. Okay. And call this as trans. And here I could say em entity manager dot get transaction. Now, if you want to insert a note, first of all, remember that always ask yourself a question. Am I inserting this thing onto the one side or the many side? If it's a many side, we need to maintain the bidirectionality. Okay. Now, because I want to insert this into the many side, I need to tell the user, hey, user, I'm updating this. Now, okay, now you will say, okay, from where should I get the user? I have no user. No, we have, because if you have the note for free, you have the user. Just say note.get owner, and here we go. Now I have the user. I need now to, like when I say notify, that means update the list of the user. Okay, because the user contains a list. Say user dot get note list. Okay, and then I am gonna add to this list a note. Okay, this is what we mean about maintaining bidirectionality. Because if I'm gonna insert that to the mini side, I need to tell the user, yo, like I have updated that. Please update your list because you are keep tracking of this list by like from your side, and this is the new node that you need to add. Okay, and that's very much everything for bidirectionality. Now here we need to start doing the code or the logic. Now the first thing we need to always trans.begin, and here we would have trans.end. Dot commit. Okay, now inside begin and commit, I will add my code here. First of all, I need to save it to, when we say insert, we don't have something called insert, we have something called persist. And here I want to persist the note, and then I need to merge. And by the way, merge means update, because I have updated the user here. I need to update it here, say entity manager dot merge, and then I say user. Okay. And this is how we can insert a note. Remember, we are doing this steps, this 1, 2, and the 3, because we are inserting a note into the many side and the user need to be notified. Okay. And yeah, now for finally, just say em dot close. And here we also need to have a catch. Remember, we discussed that also in the lecture, we say that in the transaction, like what is the beneficial, like why it's beneficial to use a transaction. It is because if I do any problem, if any problem occur, I can roll back. Okay, I can roll back, and therefore I can say if there's any problem that we have, just say trans dot rollback. Okay. I don't think that we will do that like in this course, but yeah, if there's in case any problem that we will have, please roll back these changes and go back to the last version, valid version of the database that we have. Now, before we do update, I want to do delete because update, insert and delete, they are very similar. Because when I insert, I need to notify the user. When I want to delete, here we were doing add, and the next time we would do remove. Okay, that means I can take everything, literally everything from the insert for the delete. Okay, is that everything here? Yeah, just say this. However, right now, instead of saying add, I just say remove. Okay. And this would be exactly as I said, the same. However, instead of saying persist, because persist, it means remove. In this case, I say, it means insert. I just say remove. And remember that we discussed that here in the lecture, that we have, no, not weak demo, it is the GBA PowerPoint. Yeah, you can find it here. Like if you want to delete, we need first to merge the entity that we want to delete it, and then we will do the remove second, which means here it is like a two-step. First, we should say em.merge, and then we pass the note, and then we do the remove. Okay, as I said, it's very similar to the insert. However, for update, I don't need to notify it. There is no need to notify the user that I have changed that, because the user will fetch that by itself, because it's not about adding or removing. These are major things. Updating, they will, when they are going to read this, they will fetch the correct data for that. And therefore here, I need this. Okay, just give me this. And just remove it. However, as I said, no need to notify it. We just say no need for the user. And here I just say, okay, wait, I have everything. I just em.merge. Okay. And yeah, that's very much everything for update as well. This would update the note, and this would delete the note. Again, remember, for delete and for insert, I need to notify the user. I either adding that to the list or removing that to the list. However, for updating, the GBA will handle that by itself. By the way, in modern GBAs, because this is a very old GBA, in modern GBA, we don't do these steps, by the way. Like they handle that in the background, but because this is like, let's say, a stupid GBA, I need just to notify it in the case of add and in the case of remove. Because you might be wondering, like, why I don't do that in the update. It is just because this is how GBA was implemented at that time. This these days, right now in the spring, for example, I don't need to notify it. They will understand that, oh, you are removing that. I'm going to remove that by myself. We don't have this convenient things right now. Please bear in your mind for the delete and insert. And this not always, like if I'm inserting something for the user side, which is the one side, no need to do that. Just if I'm doing that for the many side, and that's all. Okay. And yeah, I think that's very much everything for this number 12. I will do the 13, 14 in the next part. Okay, now we have done a lot of changes, and it's actually a lot of work that we are doing right now. We need to change this class, node service class. Now to change the node service, because you know that we were using GDBC right now, we don't have GDBC. How things will go, let's go one by one and see if I need to change anything here. For example, for the get, there is no need to change anything. It is okay completely. There's no problem. And for get all in the service class, there's nothing that I need to change. It's completely okay. However, the problems is for insert, update, and also for delete, even though like you have no problem here, but I will tell you that why do we need to change this as well. Let's start with the insert first. First of all, to do that, here we have a problem with the constructor. Like the problem here when it comes to insert is with the constructor. Because if you go to the note class, you will see that I have a different constructor. I have an empty constructor, I have a constructor with note ID, and I have the last constructor with note ID, title, contents without an owner, which means I need to do the following. I need to remove the owner. Okay, because now I have no problem with it with this constructor. I'm satisfying this constructor here. However, the problem, okay, but how can I set the owner? If you just double click and go down, you will see that you have get owner and you have set owner. Okay, which means you can just go back to the node service here. And to get that user, you just say user, user DB, and then say user. And I will ask the user DB. Okay, first, just say user DB. And I will ask the user DB to give me the user that we are looking for. However, now I have a problem because I don't have user DB. Okay, because I need to get that user from the database, but I don't have it. Now, how can I create that? First of all, we need to create this here. I just say new and say, okay, I need a class, just Java class. Uh, yeah, Java class. And I'm gonna say this is user DB. And I just need to have one method. I can do something similar. Just copy paste from this one, like something similar to get, but instead of get node, I will get a user. Okay. And okay, I don't need the node. I need this to be user. Nope, user. Adult.user. And here, instead of saying node, I will say user. I will get that user, return it. However, here the class should be user.class. And here I would pass the owner. And remember that the owner gonna be string. You're passing the owner. And yeah, that's very much everything. This is a database class that return the user based on the owner. And if I go back to the node service, remember here, I need to set, like again, I need to say node.set, node.set owner, but I need to pass an object. And to get that an object from the database, what I should do, I just say, okay, user database. And then here I would say user, and then say u. And this user gonna be come from the user DB dot get. Oh, wait, I need to import this first. I'm sorry. Okay, now here user DB and then say get. And now I'm saying, okay, based on this owner, give me that user. And since I just need to import it as well. Oh, wait, just import that. NetBeans is the worst thing that I have ever seen in my life. Okay. Now let's go back. Now I have the user here. And since I have it, now I can set, like, now we are able to fix the problem of that constructor. I can't just say node.set user owner here. And it's just pass the U. And now what I could do is simply just say node database, okay, and just ask it to insert the node. And that's very much for node. Again, remember when we were doing insert, we have a problem with the owner. The owner is no more than, it's not a string anymore. It's an object. Because of that, I need to get that object because remember, here in the before, like we were dealing with this as a string, but right now we are dealing with this as an object. But how can I get the object? I need the real object that exists in the database. Therefore, I need to create a user DB class that gives me the owner based on the ID, which is the primary key. And here we are getting and we are setting the owner. We are solving that problem. And then we are calling node_db, and that's all. Okay, let's see now the update, because update is also interesting. First of all, you don't need to create a note. Because why do I need to create a note? If I want to update a note, the best thing that I could do is ask node_db to give you that note. Like I can have node_db, this one, and I can say, okay, give me the note. Okay, just say here, note. And I can ask node_db to get the note based on the note ID, because I have the note ID here, yeah? If you want to update it, I don't need to create it. I can ask the database to give the entity manager to give me this. It's very easy. Just say get note ID. Now, after that, I can set anything that I want to change. And by the way, we can just change the title and the contents in this example. And therefore, I just say, hey, note.set title, and then note.set contents. And then I can call the update note. And that's everything that we need right now for update. And for delete, if you want to delete, why do you need to create a node and then set node ID and something like that? I can just ask node_db to give me that node because I have the node ID, yeah? I have the node ID, just say node, and then say node_db dot get node_db dot get yeah, and based on node ID. And here we go. We have everything done in this class. Just save it. It looks like I shouldn't have any problem, except that I need to run the nodes SQL. Just run this file. Run it under nodesdb. Yes. Okay, no errors. Let's run the code. Hopefully it works. I'm afraid of the result. Let's see. Okay, it takes some time because this is the first time running this. Say okay. Please work. Okay, it works. Wow. Let's say code number 1. Okay, I am able to fetch that. Let's say another code. I'm able to fetch that using GBA. I'm not using anything. Let's say I want to create, okay, cancel edit. Let's say that I want to create my node. Test. Say create. And here we go. Now I have it. By the way, make sure you always go to the database and check the database there, because you might have everything is created here with no problem, but you might have a problem in the database. Okay, and therefore always go to the notes and see tables. Okay, say this note. Wait, just say view data. And as you can see, now I can see it, because this is the only trickiest part. If you, for example, here on the, let's go back to node_db, and let's say that you didn't maintain the bidirectionality correct, for example, this is one of the effects that you will have. This is one of the problem that, for example, you might have everything correct on the database, but in the Java side, not everything is being done correctly. Let's do something else. Okay, can I delete? I didn't just delete. Delete. Now let's another. Just 1, 2, 3. Blah blah blah. Okay, just say create. Go back. Can I save? Okay, save it. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, everything looks fine. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I hope this was useful. Again, there's no way to understand this without doing the code by yourself. I hope that you clone it, do it by yourself. And for your assignment or for your lab, by the way, you need to do the same thing. It's all about going sometimes over the documentation, but you don't need even documentation. Like everything is here. Okay, everything you need that is here. Not here, I'm sorry. It's here.